well, especially given the current situation and not climbing the walls too much, being locked in. There's a lot of information going around, particularly on LinkedIn, about the best remote working platforms out there, the best technology to make this work efficiently and why. So what we wanted to do is address the more human side of it, the more people-based side. So Chris has very kindly given up her time to deliver this today. So obviously a very big thank you to her. Please do ping some questions live over on the chat function on the side there, and we'll address them later. But in the meantime, yeah, I hope you found it useful, and over to Chris.
Okay, good afternoon. For inviting me into this session. So I'm working from home, as the rest of us are, and the world has moved on its axis in the last couple of weeks. People haven't changed, but our processes have. So that's really what I'm going to take you through for the next 30 minutes. As part of Maguire Training, I manage a team of 40 remote trainers. Probably, a couple of weeks ago, this session would have been about flexible working, about working from home. Now we're all working from home, so the landscape has changed considerably. So that's what we're going to talk about during the next 30 minutes. Okay. So good news is managing a team that work from home isn't actually much different. But it depends really on your approach when people were in the office and the way you manage them. So we might need to change your mindset and change some of your approaches and your processes to get the best out of the people, the situation. We are in completely uncharted territory here. 2 weeks in, no one really knows what good looks like. No one really knows what it should like, and we have very few frames of reference. So we are in this together, but I think keeping our head, being sensible, and realizing that people haven't changed, they're still the same team members, is important thing to hang on to as we go forward. Okay, so the aims of the session is to look at how organisations, managers and your teams can really try and navigate what is just unprecedented business disruption. There's no two ways about it. We all want to come out of this with healthy businesses and also healthy people and healthy good business practice as well. I personally believe that the world will look a different place, and I hope there are some really positive learnings to our approach to the way we manage our businesses as well. So let's go on this journey. It's exciting. It's at the moment, week 2, I don't know, we're probably still in the honeymoon period, but there's still a lot to navigate and a lot of things to take us through. We have supported the session with some copies and slides and information and a resource pack as well, which Alex will distribute to you. Okay. So the topics for discussion: communication. Communication is key. It always will be in whatever situation we're in. It's the thing that if anybody asks about people management they'll always say they never communicated enough. So important and really vital in this situation. It's not, out of sight, out of mind. We need to take different approaches to communicate to people and make sure they're feeling included as well. Okay, direction. So we don't want to micromanage people, but we do need to have some levels of supervision. We need to know projects are going forward. We need to know we're progressing. We need to know tasks are being done on a daily basis, whether that's maintenance, whether it's client-facing actions that are required. All of those things need to go on. So we will need to find some methods about how we do that. So we'll talk about that in a bit more detail. Technology. I'm only going to touch on this really from in a sort of quite a soft way. I'll leave that to you guys. You're probably on that already, but there are some successes and some not. And from a people management point of view, just like to allude from that point of view. Okay, motivating your team. So what I'm working on projects that you knew your team before this happened. So now how do we continue to get the best out of them? What do we know about them? What can we really help them with? What we can do to support them and their families, or lone workers, whatever that is, how can we make that work? Providing training, so we're going to talk about that in detail in terms of using it as a really useful time to actually upskill. So again, got some information around there. Also what explicit and implicit communication can look like. So simply that's about, how do you know people are carry on contributing to the team? Have they just gone below the radar? Are they not completing reports? What are they doing? Or are some just going online, updating information? You know, projects are emailing you, you're copied in on it. So all of that activity and working remotely and managing it remotely can look different, but it does give us an idea of what that can look like for each of our team members. And then finally, work-life integration, separation, something we're all going through, and it can be so different if you've got a family, you're trying to navigate, well, just the use of the kitchen table will be one. You've got children maybe who are home working, you have partners who are also working from home. These are, well, just unprecedented times. So we'll talk a little bit about what could be good practice there as well. So, lovely picture, working from home. The reality probably doesn't look like this. In fairness, this is the idyll that what life could look like. But each, again, for all of your team members, it's about, you've probably never been to their homes. You don't know what their setup is. So understanding how that it is for them is going to be important. So do they need to navigate family and work with family to get the most? Do people want to start early in the morning, maybe have a break for homeschooling or to go for a run? What does that day look like for them? You will get much more from people if you can understand what their situation is and try and navigate a way through that for all of them. And taking a sort of a poll from all of your teams, hopefully you've got some common areas where you can get together as a team and look at that together. So first thing I've got is house rules. Now these are not literal. Okay, so first is get dressed. Now, sorry, it's a very bizarre one, but really important. It has been proven that when you literally go from one zone in your head to another, you get dressed, you know, get out your fluffy dressing gown or your sweatpants, whatever it is, does make a difference. And I appreciate at the moment you're not even answering the door to the postman, but it does really just help you sort of get in the zone, if you like, of working and transitioning from home to a work situation as well. Establish boundaries. So I'm relating here to what it's like in your home. How does that work? So it might be physical boundaries about where the children work, where you're working, how's that looking, but really understanding what that is. When maybe use of equipment, laptops, when what your expectations are in terms of responsibilities and accountability, when things need to be posted to the rest of the team. So understanding what that looks like for you and having a sort of bond of a sort of a team player is going to be important. Okay. I put something like take screen breaks. Seems really obvious, but it can make a real difference to people's mental health. It's so easy to flick your computer on in the morning and have it running in the background all the time and just popping in and out of it because you can. But it has been proven taking regular breaks, and then I suppose that moves to taking regular exercise is important. Speaking to people, there's a lot of software allow us to talk to people face to face. Picking up a phone, there's some stats already starting to come out with the availability of people who are working from home who actually want to talk. So think about all those people and your clients that you couldn't actually get to speak to. They may be available. Otherwise, we just sit behind a sea of email, and we've got. Yeah, I'm guessing in the technical community there is an awful lot of emails. There's a lot of projects and updates and things, but putting the sort of people element front and center in this situation can be really helpful for you, for them, for mental health, for the teams, and everything else. Okay. So find software that works for your team. So we'll talk a little bit about what I know, for instance, that would Rametta use they use, well, I can't remember actually which one. So they use Zoom. So there's lots of people finding different, it's Microsoft Teams, sorry, we're using Zoom. There's lots of software that allows you to communicate with your teams, but choosing the right one, making it simple or complex is required. There's lots of different ones that we can recommend. Ensure that your workplace is secure. So I guess I'm preaching to the converted here, but again, we already we've found people using laptops that haven't got updated security on it. We're swapping out with children using them. So again, seems really obvious, but it is worth checking. Moving regularly, taking a walk. So again, it's an interesting part of what we should be doing every day, but sensible screen breaks, walking, moving. There is also a sort of a technique called Polidino, which is about working for 25 minutes and then having a 5-minute break, working for 25 minutes and a 5-minute break, and it's supposed to be very, very good for production. Okay. And then finally is creating work zones. Now, simply that might be a corner of a table, but it's an area that is your own, that you can define as your own working space for your family maybe as well, and also that you pack up at the end of the day and move it away, so it's not just sort of cluttering up and open. So again, just keeping places that are zoned in your mind is useful and helps with productivity and again your general health. Okay. So I'm going to move in more into the people elements, which is really what we wanted to talk about today, is what motivates your team. Now, I'm taking an assumption here that you knew how your team operated before they all started to work remotely. So again, pulling together how that worked. So having clear goals, clear objectives for the teams. Now, we have in Maguire, we have a morning meeting. So it's 10 o'clock. We come with a list of things that we want to do that day, but we also link it to our long-term objectives, medium-term objectives, and the fixes that are required that day. We actually verbalize that, so it helps you get in the zone and concentrate and talk about specifically about how you're going to contribute. Now, you might do that in different ways. You might have a wash-up meeting at the end or a lunchtime meeting, but it is important to get things together. Now, I am sort of going to put that aside for one moment. If you've got lots of team players, then getting on Microsoft Teams, for instance, is going to be a joy because they will love it. Somebody who was always maybe got more specialist role and doesn't need to do that and doesn't actually need maybe to collaborate with the rest of the team might think that's an idea of hell. So that might be just something you might have a separate call with them to make sure that you're touching base with them and talking through how you may invite them on maybe on a weekly meeting, which is just talking about how you're progressing generally. Talking about motivation, the cheapest way to motivate people is to praise them specifically and be genuine and honest with it, and it's the most heartfelt. So public praise can work for some people really well, so you could do that on your team meets. Individual thanks and praise may be more acceptable and comfortable for some of your teams, so again, understanding how that works for individuals. There's got to be a lot of trust and flexibility. It's the key motivator. You trust me to work at home. I will get on. I am a specialist in what I do. I care. If you give me some flexibility here, I will work my socks off for you. You know, that's sort of what you want that to feel like. I'm going to continue to take responsibility. I might even step up to the plate and take new responsibility on, which is maybe something that's an opportunity presents itself in this climate. So again, that's important. For instance, I'm looking for a new CRM system for our company. It's something we've never got around to doing, but our license is up in August, and we're thinking, yeah, good opportunity. So that's something I've learned, that I'm thinking in this climate we need something different. So again, the different things come out of working the way we are working. Support. So support can come in so many levels. It might be technical support, it might be just the software that you're currently using to talk to each other on. It could be more technical, it could be just encouraging people to go out and say, go and have some walks. It could be support around people's mental health as well. So again, tailoring that to individuals is really important. Incentives and rewards, they can come in so many different ways. Thank you, we've mentioned. Some of those probably vouchers, but with very long lead-in times will be useful. You may even send just a batch of Easter eggs out to a family of your team, whatever that looks like. It's just important to tailor it to the individual situation. So communicating a shared vision. So I'll talk a little bit more about that, but it's so important because you're not seeing each other. Everybody understands how everything fits together, how what you're doing fits in with the greater good. We'll talk a little bit more about briefings and some sort, but again, not to people to feel marginalized and separate. Is how it all adds up to the sum of the parts, is helping the company sort of maintain its position, potentially move forward, and what it's learning from that journey as well, and how you're all contributing to it. Okay, so direction, difficult one. You know, it is a lot of what we're doing is based on trust. There are lots of different pieces of software, there's lots of reporting mechanisms that you can do, but essentially it's about setting your stall out to say you trust people, understand what they're accountable for, understand what they're responsible for, and monitor performance levels. Now, a difficult one because we are in something that is probably non-comparable. But if you have someone in your team, for instance, that has worked from home before, has got all their normal the kit that they need, then you should expect that to be them to function as normal. Whereas someone who maybe has never worked from home before and suddenly finds themselves in a completely alien situation, then, you know, again, understanding what that feels like and looks like. I can only talk for myself. You know, I'm used to having an office, good support, printers, machinery, 2 screens, and now at home with a laptop and a very small monitor, and everything is taking me twice and not 3 times as long to do. So I think understanding how we can be fair with our judgments on performance is going to be important. But again, that's a discussion you have with individuals and what that can look like and how they can be flexible and get the most from the situation. I've touched on some of the software already. There's a Microsoft. Slack is one that a number of our clients use. Zoom, we've mentioned. Asana, I think, is more complex and really good for project management needs. And this is one I found, which is FocusMate. So this is for the ones who you know that you're not very good at working from home. So your working from home normally involves lots of snacks, maybe a little break, lots of tea breaks, a little wander in the garden with your mug and walking the dog. So what this little bit of software does is you download it and it teams you up with someone who monitors your performance during the day and sends a little report out. So you look up and they can look at you and they know you're not there and you're not working. So yeah, it's just something to have a think about if you you know yourself and know that could be a potential issue. Okay. So just talked about earlier about the pledge meetings we have. So this could be an idea that you could adopt. So this is people saying, I will do this. These are my goals today, this week, this month. It highlights activities that involve in what you're doing. So again, really important, because if there is collaboration, there is support needed from other members of the team, everybody knows what they're working on. You can take that offline afterwards, you know, information can be sent, can be shared, people can stay online and have a discussion. But again, it's most important that cohesion still exists within the team, and regular reporting. And people then understand what they're accountable for. So we keep minutes of that meeting, but it's on Zoom. We keep it up as a shared file. It's opened up every morning, and we report on that. And I genuinely feel that's something that we would do as a team going forward, because it's all too easy to come into the office in the morning, turn your computer on, get your cup of tea, sit down and start working and actually not talking. So I think, again, these are some of the things that may come out of this practice and how we maybe shape our new working landscape going forward. Okay, regular company updates. Really, again, important to focus on how you as managers supporting them, how they fit into the team and the business. There's so much legislation, new things happening around pay. So so again, it could be a very useful vehicle. Obviously, if it's very personal to an individual, I wouldn't use this mechanism, but understanding how you are. Clients, maybe you want to talk about billing, whatever that people would normally be able to share. Please remember to do this in your regular updates. People will start feeling very lonely and on their own, and that just adds to worry. There's enough going on with the virus itself in people's home situations, without wondering what's going on in a work situation as well. So even if it's only links to government sites, it just helps them be more informed. It just shows that you're on it, you're thinking about it, and you're thinking how it could affect them as a team as well. So I talked about support. Now this top point for the team, opportunity to upskill. Of course, I run a training company, I would say this, but we have seen a real rise in people coming to for our courses, maybe webinars or email, courses as well. So good opportunity. You think about, yes, I've always wanted to learn how to do pivot tables in Excel and never got the time to do it. I won't be doing that, by the way. But it's again great opportunity to think about the future, what skills we may need, what that looks like. Maybe I do need to upskill on some new software. What's that going to look like? Maybe you also need to support the team with some good remote technical support if that's required, and also physical and mental health support as well. Again, I've said I've included some information around that. So, when you've been on maybe a call for a couple of hours, just at the end of it, remind them, go for a walk, go and get some fresh air. This we'll come back to this another time. If you can hear that people are struggling, and you haven't got their voice, or you've got maybe, if you know people, looking out for some simple signs. For some people, being alone at home is not going to be good for their mental health. So again, if that's not your area of expertise, there are a number of different charities and supports. The MHFA are extremely good. They have consultants that will impartially help you, and that you can put people in touch with. And then it's not a discussion that maybe you want to have, or you're comfortable having, or feel you have the expertise, but you can direct them to the right places as well. So as we come towards the end, of the presentation, so work-life separation. Please try not just to flick your laptops on first thing in the morning when you wake up. It's so easy for all this to not have boundaries and areas where you can work, where you need your home time, you need your family time, whatever that looks like for you. It's very easy to just be running in the background all the time. That is not a good way, and it's certainly it has been proven time and time again that it's not good for productivity and leads very quickly to burnout. Okay. One of the things is other thing is do nothing but work in your workspace. I know that is very easy, but again, there have been pictures. We've seen it already of people literally moving their laptop up and then moving their plate in to have their dinner, whatever. So just again, have areas of demarcation where you can be be productive in your best way, and leave your workspace. Have breaks. Have happy family hours. Those things are not mutually inclusive, by the way, but you can. But make sure that we've got separate. And these are things that come back to your house rules. These are things that you can have with your partners, your wife, your children. But you need to agree those things as a family. And as hard as it is, and it will be, I'm not there in that situation myself. I have every respect for those who are juggling all of those things, but they're conversations that do need to happen. So really just say thank you very much. We will move very shortly into a live Q&A. So if there's anything that I've raised, any issues about that you want to know more about, I'll be delighted to help in any way I can. Thank you.
Everyone got some really useful information from that. We're certainly making some notes myself. So yeah, thank you very much. We have got a couple of questions in the chat. One from Louise that I've noticed as well, actually. How would you keep up team morale given the current situation?
Okay, very different one. Again, knowing your team helps, and what used to be fun for them can be translated into group activities as well. You might have competitions. I've seen some things where people post funny family pictures, jokey things and signs that they've got going on up in their house to involve other people as well, so that that you are sort of sharing that side of it as well. Little sort of 5 top tips of the day, and some sort of maybe incentives and fun. We do a simple one like, what are we having for dinner that night? What are we doing? So we try and not make it into a bit of a sort of we call it a COVID sort of festive that's negative, but we just try and think, right, what can we do to make the best of the situation? I'm finding moving more into the personal side seems to be working better.
Cool. Okay. Yeah, we Woodrow Mercer actually hosted a pub quiz on Friday as well.
Brilliant.
Which we did it over Microsoft Teams, and we just had an app that you can download, and all the questions are on there. So everyone grabbed a drink, and we all had a bit of a catch up. So yeah, I'd personally recommend that as well. It was quite a lot of fun.
Great stuff.
Another one pop up. Any ideas for work socials? Well, I've just touched on that. But where people could do things outside of work as well. I think you are still speaking to your team a lot during the day. So, perhaps stuff that you can do that doesn't necessarily involve work stuff.
Yes, I think, definitely. It seems to be photographs, how long. I mean, people have set up things like how far they're walking. I mean, I did we've done with the Marie Curie Cancer Trust, we've done our 10,000 steps. So we've all got we report on that, and we've got a little bit of a scale of who's winning. So there's a little bit of competition there. We've got like best pooch things. I've seen lots of different things that go on, but it's again sort of diversifying. It's not just the team, it's also everyone is in that home, if you like, and that house as well, and involving them. But it's if you're a competitive team, then you'll always find something to be competitive about.
Definitely. Good. All right. So one thing that's been brought up quite a lot, I've seen a lot of posts on LinkedIn about this, and we've been touching on it a little bit at Woodrow Mercer as well. Everyone's at home and you can't go anywhere right now. So obviously everyone's sort of banking holidays, annual leave, that kind of thing. Do you use that now, or does everyone go on a 2-week holiday when we come out of this? What are your thoughts on that?
Okay, so difficult one to as a from a HR or managerial perspective, but
Mm.
I think that generally, if you can take holidays now, and it means that you're maybe running slightly with the skeleton staff, but actually that might fit quite well with the workflow at the moment. So you're giving people a little bit more family time together. You're reducing the pressure for the return to work, because the work landscape will be entirely different. Things will
Mm.
ramp up again, maybe in a different way. So you will want to have people available. So people can't always bank the holidays. Some companies will have what you call some holiday zones, so they can only take so much holiday in various times of the year, and that normally depends on whether people have got children or not, or when that people want to go. So I think that those sort of guidelines will still be in place. So I don't generally think people will be able to completely bank holidays, and it could impact greatly on the business. So I think having reasonable conversations again with your teams on what would work for them. People are often quite grateful. I mean, simple things like we've got a couple of members of our team that some are runners, and they're going to have a week and they're going to go training. We've got someone else with an allotment, and they said, great, we'll have that time off to use it. So it's again, it's very personal to the individual team members as well. But generally, I doubt whether it would be good practice to bank holidays as such. I think you can bank the money. I think that's probably one thing at the moment. No one's spending monies on holidays. I think maybe start thinking about the great holidays you can have when all this changes. So
Yeah, absolutely. You've obviously touched on mental health a little bit as well. It's a bit of a distressing time for everyone anyway, like you say. But then
yeah.
I think if you look at it from a business perspective, there's a lot of results-driven businesses out there where the pressure is going to be really on, to essentially survive this. So what would you advise for not letting that pressure, kind of affect your team and kind of roll downhill to them, if you like?
Okay, I think mental health is such a personal thing. So some people will step forward and feel like they can control it, they're in control of it, but actually I know people who are very robust mentally, and this has affected them quite badly. So I think it's understanding, again, if you know the person the way they are and the way they're now started maybe to behave, then you need to support them in an
Sure.
individual way. Um, it is very difficult, and I have heard reports that it's so easy now for people who they probably need to develop more coping mechanisms than they used to, because
Yeah.
maybe it was a release, getting out, going to the pub, socializing. They were all mechanisms that help support people's mental health. And when stripping all of that away, it's very exposing. So encourage everyone to, and I know I did bang on about it in the presentation, is get out, get fresh air.
Yeah.
It's really important stuff, and they're simple things. But if for those who are struggling, then they may need to talk to more professional help and get support. And there is an awful lot online. Most of the people, because I'm a mental health first aider, and I know now that I've been sent a lot of things, a lot of resources that will enable me to practice online. So there is support out there, and I think it's also being mindful that maybe as a manager you're not the right person to speak to, and that was actually the role of first aiders. That's what they were there, is that it was someone who wasn't in the hierarchical structure of a company, but actually was someone who was a really good listener and could help and navigate and point you to the right places. So I think it's a very personal approach, but there is an awful lot out there. But I think if you feel it's maybe buddying people up that you think are maybe quite different in terms of personalities and the way they view the world, maybe to sort of help each other or buddy them up on a work project, again, can just help, and that there might be more talking, more dialogue than there would be with you. So again, putting some mechanisms in.
Yeah, really good suggestions there. I think particularly the buddying up thing sounds really useful. So I think there's one last question on the channel by the looks of it, and then I think we'll probably look like we're wrapping up, to be fair. But so do you have any books in particular around organising yourself for remote working that you would recommend?
Ooh, do you know, I don't, but I can, I don't, actually, interestingly enough, when I was researching for this course, there
Mm,
is, you know, we are on uncharted territory. There is stuff for remote working, there is things for
mm,
flexible working, but I think the convergence of what home workings look like, there probably isn't much out there that because it's so new. There is a guide which I will share with you, which was produced by the NHS, because I sort of head up the healthcare division, so that was particularly relevant to people who normally would come to the hospital and work, and then suddenly, mainly the administration and management teams, are suddenly working from home. And there was some guidelines given that I thought were very useful. So I'll happily share those with you. And I'll have a look for a couple of ones on flexible working as well. But as I say, I think we're in unique times. Maybe there's a book in there somewhere. I don't know.
mm. Maybe you could get writing one. Fair
Yeah,
enough.
yeah,
Um,
but yeah, is it in the time? Yeah.
Definitely right. Well, I think that is pretty much everything by the way of questions. Chris, obviously, thank you very much again for
Thank you.
dedicating your time this afternoon to deliver this. Really much appreciated. And as you
Pleasure.
mentioned, obviously, we'll make the resources available for anyone who wants them. So get in touch if you've been watching, and let me know what you're after.
Okay.
Cheers.
Thank you.